So Melania, do you remember last time we discussed Joe Rogan?
You people. You people are about to start World War III.
And he appeared to be reluctant to talk about Ukraine on his podcast, right? So he's like, when Zelensky proposed to come to his podcast, he was like, what are you talking about, dude? Like, I mean, like, it's not a political podcast or whatever. It's, it's
I don't want to meddle in that election
talking to
stuff.
Comedians. Yeah, elections, whatever. I'm just a chill guy. So, yeah, he literally, I don't know, next day after that, he invited this guy to his podcast.
So when you say that Ukraine no longer has democracy, essentially what happened is Zelensky was supposed to leave office and he did not. Is that what happened?
Well, they've indefinitely canceled elections. So he is
because of the war. Because
of the war is their argument. Now, we had elections during the Civil War here in the U.S. This is, This is not uncommon for countries to be at war and still have elections. The issue is Zelensky is unpopular and not winning in those election polls. And we no longer define democracy as being about elections because elections allow populists to circumvent the consensus of institutions.
Oh, yeah. Great guy. So, listen, is this just me or is Joe Rogan becoming more and more like Russian state media at this point? This is
this is literally 1-to-1 Russian state media propaganda. Nothing like straight from Russian sources. I mean, fresh.
And if you are by any way, shape, or form surprised by what this bold man has to say, and I don't mean Joe Rogan, I mean his co-host in this podcast, Michael Benz. So if you're any way, shape, or form surprised by what this man has to say, have no fear. This might actually not be the worst thing that he said before. If I may quote, "If I, a Jew, a member of the tribe, Hebrew schooled, can read Mein Kampf and think, holy shit, Hitler actually had some decent points, then no one is safe from hating you once they find out who is behind the white genocide happening all over the world," he wrote in one of his posts.
Yeah, that sounds like a great guest for Joe Rogan podcast. I mean, like, he fits, isn't it? He could have a great, a great podcast together with Kanye West, probably. Whatever. So we have to concentrate. We have to focus. We have to focus on one thing, and we have to explain now, since Joe Rogan, the most popular podcaster in the world, is spreading Russian lies. We have to explain why those are lies and why, for instance, Ukraine cannot hold an election during the war.
And
the war
Mark,
we are
you have
having
forgotten
right now.
a very, very important word. Again, we have to explain again. Not just us, but 30 fucking and a bunch of million Ukrainians have to yet again explain to people abroad why we don't want to have elections in our country right now.
And
this
cannot.
Is not a joke. And
physically
this is not a joke. This is not so this person, Michael Benz, I'm just gonna give you a short review. So he's a conservative crusader, he's an alt-right fan, a big member of the Donald Trump's team, a former Trump's State Department official who is probably going to get a position in the new administration anyway. But the point is, this guy, he's just voicing an opinion of many stupid people who like to say stuff like, well, we had elections in America when we had war. Why can't everybody? I don't remember, Mark. When was the last time a fucking ballistic missile was hitting any town or any city in the North America? Can you tell me the date last time that happened? Exactly. That,
the last time it should have been even though it shouldn't be a problem physically to hold elections during civil war, the last time there was a war in the United States was 150 years ago.
And by the way, some person on Twitter asked me well, Abraham Lincoln had, elections during the war. Well, guess who couldn't fucking vote? Black people and women.
And also,
great track record of holding elections during the war in America. Great.
And also southern states, Confederacy couldn't fire fucking missiles to the polling stations. Jesus Christ. Anyway, we have to do a structured analysis and explanation. Let's start from the beginning.
Again.
Can you explain, please, why cannot Ukraine hold an elections, even if it wanted, even if most of people wanted it, even if Zelensky wanted to hold elections, why cannot it hold elections during the war?
Thank you, Mark. Well, as a lot of people might not know, but Ukrainians actually love our elections. We are very proud and we love our elections, and it's a little celebration every time, even if it's horrible and sad and full of, scrutiny and, fighting for democracy. But every election for Ukraine is sacred. The parliamentary elections were due in October 2023, so long gone, and the presidential elections should have been planned for spring 2024. But that fact is in fact incompatible with the Russia's plans of full-scale invasion of Ukraine. We have a thing in this country that is very weird for some people because they treat us like we're, illiterate. A thing called constitution and thing called legislation. Imagine that. And so under Ukrainian legislation and constitution, it is directly prohibited to hold any kind of elections under martial law. Period. So this is something that is very important. Holding elections during martial law is unconstitutional. But let's imagine a situation. Let's imagine Ukraine is America. Everybody loves to imagine Ukraine is America. Let's just imagine Ukraine is America. Mark, what do you see?
Yeah, I don't know. America, fuck yeah! So lick my blood and suck on my bone. And there is another fun fact about Ukrainian constitution. It's written there, and it's in words, in Ukrainian language, that it is prohibited to change the constitution during the martial law. It is that, it is written there. So
imagine not being able to change a constitution in a war-torn country. Isn't that reasonable? It is.
Yeah, so we couldn't change the constitution under some kind of pressure of war or something like that. That's a neat point there. So you not only have elections prohibited by constitution, you also cannot change the constitution.
Ta-da! So, let's imagine the situation where, as any other person would love to, and they keep telling us that, imagine if Ukraine became America, right? Imagine there was no such thing as prohibition of holding elections in constitution and all of that unnecessary crap. Imagine you could just do elections and with no legislative kind of problems. Well, even if it did happen, and even if Ukraine suddenly became America, there are dozens of completely unsolvable practical and security issues that render this idea completely impossible, not just physically voting, putting a ballot in the box, but also fair. It wouldn't be fair. And the reason for that is, as of now, more than, I think almost up to 20% of Ukraine is under temporary Russian occupation, right? And millions of Ukrainians were either forced to flee to Europe or flee to Russia, or they were made to go to Russia. So, a shit situation, whichever way you look at it, but it means that approximately 10 million Ukrainians, I think, rough estimates, are not in Ukraine right now. How do you think it's possible for Ukraine's economy and just politically even try to establish voting stations for all those refugees all over Europe, all over North America, all over Russia, I guess, because, the country has to make sure their people can vote. So all these Ukrainians who are forced to live in Russia now, and I don't mean occupied territories, I mean Russia. Somehow Ukraine would have to figure out a way to let them vote. Moreover, all those people who are left in the occupied territories who decided or couldn't go, They won't be able to vote, because how do you even put polling station? And we're not even talking about shelling at this point. We're just talking about the sheer logistical mind fuck that will be.
But let's imagine we solved it. Right, people can vote. We send, I don't know, with FPV drones, we send ballots to people, and they send those FPV drones back to us from the occupied territory. We ensure everyone
still
votes.
A more reliable system than electoral college, man. Like using FPV drones for ballots is still better than having your voting ballots boxes outside on the street where people can burn
for
them.
Several months. Yes,
what could go wrong?
Better than that. But anyway. Or imagine we just say, sorry people, you cannot vote. You cannot vote. Only those inside Ukraine can vote. Only those inside Ukraine-controlled territories can vote. Those others, they just will have to wait for other elections. Whatever. Imagine that. Then there is another problem, which is not physical yet, and we're far away from the physical problem yet, which is actually the main one. But let's put it aside for a moment. So let's imagine you are Ukrainian activist or Ukrainian politician with a great heart, and you love Ukraine with your whole heart, and you do everything to protect it. And what do you do when the war starts? And if you are a man above like the normal military age, you go to army, right? You fight there, you serve your country, etc., etc. So here's the problem. When you serve the army, at least in Ukraine, I don't know, in the other countries, you're not a free man, first of all. So you are under the chain of command, and probably if you are fresh in the army, and probably if you are a politician, activist, or whatever, you're most probably fresh in the army, and you won't be some high on chain of command. You are dependable on your commanders, etc., who are dependable on their commanders and on the current administration. You are not free, and you cannot participate in the election process. It means you cannot campaign, and you cannot do anything else. More to that, you cannot even legally do that. But even if you could, you couldn't do that normally, because you are in a fucking trench under Russian shells and aviation bombs. So it's impossible physically, and it's impossible legally, and it's impossible in terms of conflicts of interest, right? So it's really hard. And those are millions of Ukrainian men who are in the army, hundreds and hundreds of Ukrainian activists who are fighting and dying currently for Ukraine, and who are currently under some chain of command, and who are in trenches and who cannot participate in elections. They cannot help, cannot campaign, they cannot be elected.
So yes, you can't run for office legally, you can't run for office physically, you can't run for office because you're busy fighting in the trench, you cannot vote because you had to evacuate from your own country, and you cannot put a ballot box in the gray occupied area because of, obvious reasons. Because if Ukraine could go there, we wouldn't have the war thing. So all of that. But let's skip all that either. Let's imagine that Ukraine magically somehow can put ballot box in this occupied territory, and somehow we change the legislation, and so that the privates and the soldiers and the military can be elected and run for office.
Let's go in further. Let's imagine we decided not to be a fully democratic country. Like, those elections won't be democratic. Those elections will be like Russian elections. I mean, lots of people cannot be elected. Lots of people cannot run and campaign. And let's put it all aside. Lots of people cannot vote. Who cares, right? We do like pseudo-democratic elections. We cannot do even that because you cannot physically organize these elections. People cannot go to the polling station and vote safely.
And Mark doesn't mean that somebody's holding their hands behind their back and is telling, no, don't go. It's because you can't even be safe in your own house. You can't even be safe when you go out to get groceries. You can't even be safe just having a walk in the park with your dog because there are cruise missiles everywhere 24/7, Shahed drones, the small FPV drones in residential areas in nearby the front line. We have evidence of that now. Cruise missiles, hypersonic missiles, Oreshnik missiles with cassettes, aerial bombs in Kharkiv. Literally, there hasn't been a single day in this country where there hasn't been a disruption of any educational, political, or economic process because of air raid sirens. Need I remind you, every time there's an air raid in Ukraine, every single bridge through the Dnipro River in city is shut down and you cannot cross it. And you know what? The city of Kyiv has two banks. I don't know. You can compare it to
Brooklyn
Budapest
and Manhattan.
or Brooklyn and Manhattan. Imagine for 2 hours a day, every single day, nobody can fucking go from Brooklyn to Manhattan and back because everything is stuck because there is a stupid MiG-31K flying above somewhere in Russia with the threat of launching a missile at you.
A hypersonic missile.
Which can reach you, so from the place where it started, flying to your city in less than 7 minutes. Imagine living under that. Try having elections under those kind of circumstances. Imagine shutting down the whole districts and you have to close the shit, people have to leave schools, hospitals have to be evacuated. It's insane. So imagine you name the date of the elections, which cannot be secret. It has to be public, right? You have to tell everybody when the election is held so people can come observe, come participate, come, vote. People from abroad have to fucking do it. Journalists have to know. You can't keep it a secret from Russia. So Russia's like, yeah, sure, you go and have elections. And you know what? Voting the date of elections, you cannot just push it around. You can be like, oh, well, we had an air raid siren today. We can't have elections today. Let's have them tomorrow. No, not possible. Have to convene the parliament again, have a vote. It's crazy. This is this is not even the main reason. We have just listed you 3 reasons and we even have more than that. It's impossible.
There are also cities on the front lines where people live. A lot of people. There's a city of Kherson, which was liberated 2 years ago. And this city is constantly attacked by FPV drones and just regular drones just to make people's lives insufferable. They just kill civilians. They just hunt civilians on the street of the city. They just fly there because there's a bank, there's a front line nearby. They just fly there and terrorize the citizen. Imagine if there's a line to the polling station anywhere close to the front line. That's fucking impossible. That you cannot organize that. Not only that, how do soldiers fucking vote? I mean,
they should just leave their trenches, leave the front line, and just, be like, okay, Russian, like this old commercial from Finland, stop. Just wait for a second, we have to go vote. That's just stupid. And there is no legal way to prohibit anybody who is allowed to vote. And even if all of those things we have listed don't matter to you, if you believe that law should be above all, cruise missiles cannot attack the constitution and your rights, electoral rights should be looked after. Well, if you ask Ukrainians, which a lot of people did, especially, who did it? International Republican Institute, an international organization working on behalf of the American bipartisan system, Republican Party, the party you guys love, right? So these guys actually went to Ukraine and asked Ukrainians. They had a survey, they had a poll. They asked, dear Ukrainians, do you want to have elections? And 67% do not support the idea of holding presidential elections.
Wow. You know what? You know what's the funniest part of it? You know who actually would love to have elections? You know who would love to have elections to make it possible? Ukrainian politicians. Vladimir Zelensky. He would love to have elections. He has a really big problem on his hands in parliament. He needs power. He needs parliament which works. We have problem with parliament which was elected in 2019, and a lot of people left it. A lot of people don't want to work. There's a huge political crisis which should be resolved by elections, which we cannot hold. Zelensky would benefit from elections more than anybody else. If Zelensky held an election right now, whatever any kind of poll tells you, he would win it, even without like some kind of resources he has as a president of the country in martial law. But with that, he would win even more. It would be more dictatorial to hold elections right now than not to.
You know, Mark, I just have this feeling like we're talking to people like they're idiots at this point, which they're not. I just worry that nobody cares. This is the problem with Joe Rogan and the people that he invites.
He doesn't care yet.
Because you know whom he could have invited and asked the same question? At least 3 people with enough competence to speak about it to him. So Vladimir Klitschko, given he's a boxer, but he knows this shit.
Wait a second. What is that, Melania?
Oh, right. So, Vladimir Klitschko, not good enough. Foreign Minister of Foreign Affairs, Dmytro Kuleba, a politician with knowledge of internal and external affairs. Wouldn't he be an expert? No, fuck that guy. I don't want to ask him. President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, actually you admitted he wanted to show up. Whom better? You could have put him in a rough spot. You could have questioned him because you're a podcaster, interviewer, a very, very, hard talk, no bullshit guy. You could have made him look like an idiot. You could have asked him, hey, dude, are you a dictator? But it's not about Joe Rogan wanting to find a real answer or having any kind of real expertise on his podcast. It's about him just being yet another mouthpiece to Russian propaganda because, well, he enjoys it so much. The same way as Tucker Carlson went to Moscow to interview Lavrov again, as if anybody is even interested in what Lavrov has to say, as if Lavrov has a problem expressing his thoughts and reaching American audience. You could have you actually should send the Haktua girl to Moscow to interview Lavrov. Haktua! That could have been actually much more interesting. But no, the fucking Tucker wants to go there. I mean, I don't even surprise Tucker anymore. We should just give up. And I think we should do the same for Rogan. Just dismiss him as a Russian propaganda machine, as Russian state television, as Russian psychological information warfare project, and just be done with it. Unfortunately, the only problem is he's too fucking big. It's a big podcast, the biggest in the world, and we're screwed.
The problem with Joe Rogan is he has a reputation which he earned a while ago before he became crazy, right? Before COVID, essentially, he gained this reputation of a dude inviting some scientists, some big activists, some great politicians, different types of really smart people, and I enjoyed watching Joe Rogan, even though he's a dummy, and even though
he's literally Joey Tribbiani.
Yeah, he's Joey Tribbiani, exactly. And I enjoyed this because he invited really great people, and there's this image of him as this podcast about dude stuff, about, I don't know, supplements, about different lifestyle stuff, and then he's injecting there some hardcore fascist propaganda like that, and you're like, at this point, more people should know, and you should tell more people that what Joe Rogan does right now is not that podcast Joe Rogan did in 2016. What Joe Rogan does is fascist propaganda on behalf of Nazis and on behalf of Russia and on behalf of, I don't know, I don't watch this shit, but I can guess there's a lot of crazy stuff going on there. So people should just spread the knowledge that there's no all Joe Rogan anymore, because lots of people don't watch him and just maybe have some videos on YouTube and don't realize that he's a crazy right now and not just a simple dude anymore. That's important. That's why we ask you to share this video, share more videos, and expose Joe Rogan as a pro-Russian shield for whatever fucking reason there is to be one. I have no idea why did he do that, but please subscribe to our channel, like this video, comment, say some stuff, say some pleasant stuff to us, please. We need your confirmation. And
validation,
share this video, validation,
yes.
Whatever. Yeah, please share this video and
don't force Ukraine. People to have elections they don't want to have. That's that easy.
Our elections, our choice.
You know what? I had something else to say, but this is a great ending. Actually.
Thank you.
No war, no opinion. See you guys next week.
See you guys.